Hi everyone, my name is Aaron, and this is a podcast made by me and my dad last year during the summer as we travelled through France for 7 or 8 days. Apologise for the bad audio as we were recording in a car, but otherwise it's a few memories for us and maybe some enjoyment for you. Last but not least, welcome to Walking in Circles.
So it's day 3. We're leaving Lille. We're on the way to Reims. We had a good night last night, didn't we, Dan?
Yeah, we did indeed. So we had a dander around Lille yesterday. Went into the Grand Place, right? So if you're ever going to Lille, go to the Grand Place. It's a big giant square right in the centre of town. Loads of outdoor cafes, amazing architecture, buildings, second-hand bookstores. It's a really cool little place. Anyway, with a couple of beers there yesterday, and in my wisdom, I said to the waiter, what's the local beer? And he goes, it's a Lille Blonde, whatever. And we'll have a couple of those. What we didn't realise is that it was 8.5% in the beers. So we had 2 beers each, some cheesy fries and nachos. Very quickly, I went, that was a bit stronger than we had reckoned for.
Yeah.
So by this stage, it was about 5 or 6 in the evening. We'd been out and about for a couple of hours, so we were back to our apartment. Promptly fell asleep with the heat and the alcohol. I set my alarm for 9. I said, Aaron, right, set the alarm for 9. I'll give you a wake and we'll go out and have a look around and see what the nightlife's like, all that sort of stuff. So alarm goes off at 9. Aaron's like, nah, I don't really feel like it. I'm wrecked and tired and all that. And I went, okay, that's fine. So I got changed anyway, and I went for a walk around the city, just for a dander, sort of within 5 or 10 minutes or where we were, and found the main street where all the pubs and nightclubs and all that stuff is. And I bumped into 3 lads from Manchester who were they're just on the last leg of a road trip around France on their motorbikes. Got chatting to them, and then Aaron rings me then must have been about 10:30.
No, I think it was like 11 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah, right, yeah. So obviously he had wakened up, was bored, and went, alright, you know what, I'll see where the other fella is, and then you came to join us.
Yeah, so I was just chilling in the bedroom when Dad left, just watching TikTok and kind of falling in and out of sleep and stuff like that. And then I probably woke properly about 10, half 10. And I was just like, do you know what? I may as well go out. I'm feeling a little bit better now. And I know for a fact Dad has already found a place to sit and have a drink. And he's chatting to somebody that he's never met before or whatever, having a crack. So I went and got dressed. And then just went out, rang him, found him, and that's when the night started really. It was about 11:30. So then we stayed in the place that Dad was, where he found the lads. Had a few beers there. I think we had maybe 3 beers there, 3 or 4 beers.
Yeah.
And then that place was shutting. And that was, what was that? Was that about?
That must be about 1:30 in the morning.
1:30 in the morning or something like that. We left there. We got talking to this guy from California that one of the lads had met previously on in the night, I'd say. And he was telling us about all the different nightclubs and stuff around, because he's an economics student over in France. And so we just went walking around looking for nightclubs that would let us in. We got turned down by this one place called The Network, which probably makes sense because we led with, the 4 old men in the group.
Yeah, should have sent the young fella up front, you know.
Yeah. That didn't work out. Asked a few other people, and then we ended up just going to this place called The Hive, which is kind of just like right next to where we were before or whatever.
It was, yeah.
Just walked in there, and this place was like a proper German discotheque, trance music, flashing lights. Everybody is smoking in the club and all this crack. So, and Dad got offered cocaine in the.
I did, yeah. I met a guy
toilet
in the bathroom, yeah. And you do cocaine? I went, Not yet.
Yeah, give it about 10 minutes.
Yeah, give me 10 minutes, you never know.
Yeah.
Next thing he goes, yeah, you find me. I was like, yeah, not a bother, we went.
Yeah. Then we went downstairs, and when you get downstairs, it's like this proper smoked out basement with flashing lights and like tons of people in this tiny little basement or whatever, and just stayed in there for, what was it, probably half an hour or whatever.
Yeah, we didn't stay too long actually shooting because it was getting late by that stage. It was like 2:30 going on 3 o'clock.
Yeah. Dad got propositioned twice.
Oh, I definitely think it was a gay bar. Like there was like 2 women in the whole place or whatever, like, you know, and DJ's doing his thing and everybody's just standing around the DJ like and going like, yeah, you know, they're all just sort of banging away to the music like.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I was a old guy, grey beard, all that sort of stuff like, so obviously I was somebody's kink.
Yeah.
These young fellas coming up and asking me where I'm from and all that. I was like, yeah, you're grand lads. And then all I did then was I just looked behind me there and I said, that's my son. And that sort of gave them the hint then, you know.
But yeah, so that was really it, to be honest. We left there. I got beer spilt on me before we left, which was great. Ruined my nice top, white. But that was grand. So then, yeah, we left there and just made our way home basically, and then got into bed and passed out. Literally passed out. Dad ate about 4 packets of potatoes.
Oh, I had the munchies, man, and there was no Mickey D's open.
Yeah, we had no food apart from potatoes. But yeah, so we're on our way to Rennes now.
Yeah, we got up this morning. We went back to the Grand Place, found a cafe, had some crepes, some coffee, had a walk around. The sort of architecture is amazing. So we went to the bookstore. We bought some second-hand books for the house, just for the shelves, just as a memento, and walked around the train station, which is another old building and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and then back we went to the car park. We jumped in the car, and after going through about 30 sets of traffic lights to try and get out of Lille.
Jesus Christ, and the shittest drivers ever. Holy crap.
Yeah, so now we are on the A1 heading to Reims.
Yeah.
It's 1:10 and we'll get there about an hour and 45 minutes, yeah. So we'll get there just before 2:49, it's telling me in the sat-nav.
Yeah, so we'll have loads of time then. And this is, I'm trying to remember what this B&B looks like.
Yeah, I have no idea what the Airbnb
I can't remember. I think, was this the nice one or no? Anyway.
Don't know.
But yeah, so I don't know what this episode's going to be about.
Yeah, no, that's just our update.
Yeah, it's just our update.
We're too tired really to talk about anything else. Like, I literally just told Aaron to, you know, give us an update. So there you go, there's 7.5 minutes of an update. So I'll talk to you later.
Alright, is that recording? Yeah. Alright, so we've just left Reims, whatever you want to call it, and we are currently on the way to Metz. We had a great time in Reims actually, didn't we?
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. I think Lille was a nice city place to go, like the architecture was beautiful and stuff like that, but Reims was definitely more of like a homely place.
Yeah, definitely more families. Like the trams and the buses are just unbelievably good.
So good.
For getting around the city, there's big open spaces right in the city centre, park area, like for families, and a lot of people use it.
Yeah, it's like that, what's that park in New York?
Central Park.
It's a bit like that, isn't it? Where it literally spans the entirety of the middle of the city.
Yeah, it does.
And it's all across the road, and all the trams and buses are go in and around it. But yeah, no, I definitely could see myself living there. I really liked it.
So what was your best bits of Reims?
Best bits of Reims.
Right.
Reims. Pizza. Pizza was lovely. Way more filling than I thought it was going to be.
So we went to a place called Antla or L'Antique.
L'Antica.
L'Antica, yeah,
Something
that's
like
it. It's quite near the Notre Dame Cathedral, very close to that.
Yeah.
And they do really good pizzas.
Yeah, very good pizzas. And it was a place that I had researched before we went over. So it was probably about last week or something like that. And I heard it was just good pizza. You get like 20 quid, you get a pizza and a beer or whatever. Probably was about that anyway.
Yeah, it
wasn't
was, yeah.
And yeah, so I was happy we ended up going because I love my pizzas, and they had chili oil, so I got Dad to try the chili oil on the pizza for the
Yeah, it
first
was
time.
good.
Then we went to the Notre Dame Cathedral of Reims, so it's not the one in Paris,
No.
but they're called the same thing.
It is massive.
It is absolutely gigantic, and it is beautiful as well. Like,
Yeah.
that was probably, to your question, that was probably the second favorite thing that we did in there. Like,
Yeah.
was literally going to the cathedral. And then obviously the automobile museum,
Which was better than we thought it was going to be.
way better.
When you get to it, it looks like a disused office building or storage yard or
Yeah.
something. You're going like, with this dodgy little sign, and you're going, okay, this looks a bit sort of,
Yeah, so
this
when
could be
we-
awful.
When we got there, my first thought was, oh, this is a old Google Maps ad and it's not open anymore. That it's a derelict thing. Watch your man's doing there. It's turning off, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway, we just got brake checked. You might want to slow down again because the caravan at the very front is going quite slow.
Don't know. Do you want to go in here for some date? Or do you want to wait till the next one?
We can wait till the next one, I think. Might be a little further along, or are you still on
Okay, no, then we'll do the next one then.
Alright, hold on. We've got the toll coming up, I think, today.
Oh, hold on. No. Got a guy going super fast. Alright, go on. So, we went to the automobile where, trying to negotiate the traffic, and they were all just diving in and out.
So the automobile place was absolutely class, like way better than I would have ever thought. We saw pictures of it and stuff like that, but you never really know like how good it's going to be. We saw a few of the the cars and stuff like that on photos on Google, but when we actually got in there, it's this small little entrance place, and they've got like different kind of model cars that you can buy and stuff, which are pretty well priced, I would say. Like
Yeah, they weren't bad actually.
10 quid, 12 quid, something like that.
Yeah.
And then once you buy your ticket, so it's €10 for an adult, so it's 20 quid for the both of us. Then you walk through there, and on the left is this huge room with loads of old, small kind of Hot Wheel model cars, and some bigger ones as well. And then to the right of you is this massive warehouse with maybe 100 cars?
Yeah.
Probably like maybe.
Oh god, yeah, like everything from like the 1900s all the way through like to the 2000s, yeah, to some of the sort of more modern ones, like. But they had really some cool, especially motors from like the 30s. It's sort of like those beautiful sort of curved, sweeping shapes to them with the sort of the barge board on the side of it that you would remember from the gangster movies of the 40s and 50s. So yeah, they were really good actually. Yeah, there were some cool motors.
They had this interesting car which was a Citroen
Eco, was it?
Eco, yeah. So it was a concept car for what cars would be like in the 2000s, I think it was.
Yeah, it was made in the 84.
Yeah, so it was for cars in 2000s, and it's literally just a teardrop shaped bubble.
Yeah.
With these kind of, what they painted on were kind of like these surround windows. Kind of looked like a weird bus, but tiny. It was so small.
Yeah.
Obviously, I imagine that they made it not to scale, like. But it was the strangest thing ever, like. And the closest thing I could probably equate it to would probably be a Tesla, with the way that the windows are kind of no roof and they're all surrounding you and stuff like that, and the shape of the bubble kind of shape going on. But yeah, no, very cool cars. There was this MG. What was it? An MG? Oh god, I can't remember the name. It was the 2000s, the one that looked like a mini Evo.
Oh yeah, so was it a Metro? No, was it a Metro? No.
I can't remember the name of that.
Okay, it's like an MG4 or something like that, some type of sort of vibe like that.
And it was made in the 2000s, and it has a race kit on it and everything, and race calipers and the whole shebang. But it literally looks like a baby Evo. Like if you mixed an Evo with a Fiesta, that's what it was. It was the weirdest thing ever, like. But yeah, no, so we really enjoyed that. We went for, because it's Sunday, there wasn't many places open, but we went for breakfast in this small little bakery kind of pastry place.
Yeah, near the cathedral,
Near the cathedral, and we also, when we went into cathedral, there was mass on, so we lit a candle and listened to the singing. God, it was lovely though, wasn't it? The singing?
Yeah, it was pretty cool actually, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of everything we did, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, no. So yeah, because we had an early night last night because we were out on Friday night, so we were tired yesterday. So we had a look around the city and had our pizza last night, and then we were up early this morning. So like I was up at 7, Aaron was up at what, 8?
8:30, something like that. Yeah.
And then so we went in, and it's now it's 1:30. So we had about 3 or 4 hours just pottering around the city, back to the cathedral, to have a proper look inside and all that, and then did the automobile thing, and we were using the trams and the buses to get around the city, which were pretty good in fairness.
We waited, what, an hour for a bus?
Yeah, one of the buses didn't show, so we had to wait for the next one, which is a bit of a pain, but the trams are excellent. They're really, really good. So yeah, no, it was a nice city. It's really homely, small. You know, that way you can definitely see yourself living there, like, because it's got everything you need.
Yeah, it's like Cork City if there was less homeless people and it was better organised.
Yeah.
Like Cork City could have been easily better organised, but because of the kind of evolution of the city and they're just kind of adding new stuff here and there, you end up getting this like botched kind of rail kind of transport system and all this kind of stuff, and none of the streets are really perfect and all that crap. So
yeah. So now we have 160 kilometers. We're on the road there about 10 or 15 minutes. 160 kilometers to Metz, which is where we're staying tonight. So we will get to Metz probably about 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And we're going to stop on the way and get some food. So it'll probably be 3:30. Closer to 4 o'clock. Check into our Airbnb and then have a look around Metz and just see what we have in Metz. We're going to spend the rest of the day there, and then we have a long drive tomorrow. Is it 4 and a half hours tomorrow from Metz to Lyon? So that's a long drive. So we'll split that one up. So we'll probably leave Metz probably relatively early, maybe about 11 in the morning type of thing to get on the road. Just so that we can get to Lyon, and we're staying 2 nights in Lyon. So we get to Lyon about 4 or 5 o'clock tomorrow, and then we'll have the evening in Lyon, and then all the next day, and then after that, then we're heading up to Versailles.
Which is another long enough drive. Well, that's not too bad.
It's another 4 hours.
4 hours,
Yeah, but again, we have a couple of nights then in Versailles.
Yeah, 2 nights. Yeah.
That's where we're going to look at the palace and do Paris.
Yeah.
Have a look around the city.
So the interesting thing I think is that we sorted kind of everything, but the way out of France and home we haven't really figured out yet.
No, we've everything booked up as far as Versailles and Paris. We haven't booked our tunnel back, but those are easy because they go every half hour.
Yeah.
And we haven't decided then when we get to Folkestone, when we get back into the UK, whether or not because we want to meet Cameron. He's living up in Birmingham, so we haven't figured out whether we're just going to stay in Folkestone overnight and then drive to Birmingham, or try and drive a little bit further north after we get into the UK and stay halfway or whatever. We'll figure that out. I suppose we'll see how we feel like when we get to
well, I'm trying
Paris.
to think, so what day will we be leaving Paris?
Friday,
and then be staying over Friday night somewhere north, so then we won't probably see Cam until Saturday.
Yeah, so if we did the whole trip, but it's a long trip from Folkestone up to Birmingham, like you're talking 4 or 5 hours again on the Friday afternoon. So it'll just depend what sort of mood we're in terms of driving, or whether we're going to stay south of London on the Friday night once we get over the tunnel.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking because we could be cutting it very close with Monday if we're not careful.
Yeah, we have to be getting the ferry on Saturday evening or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, that way. I think there's a ferry goes about 8 o'clock at night.
Okay.
So I'd say we'll probably have to probably get further north on foot from Folkestone on the Friday.
Yeah.
So that we're close enough to Cameron where we can see him in Sardi and then still spin back down.
Yeah. Because he can sort of meet us wherever we are, you know, if we're kind of halfway or whatever it is.
So what day is today? Today's Sunday. So we have a couple of days before we have to sort of make that decision. See what we're into. So I'll have to think about that and see where what he's going to be doing when he gets to that point in the week.
Yeah.
Because he might be in his new apartment or he might be in Airbnb.
He might be in his new apartment.
Yeah. I think he said he probably won't be in time, but so he'll be Airbnb in it or something like that.
Yeah. Well, no, is he not staying at Jade's place?
Yeah, he's staying this week then, but sort of from Friday onwards then I think he's moving again.
Okay.
While he's waiting for the apartment.
Alright, I'm going to have a look at some questions.
So, I think the closer we can get to Birmingham on the Friday, the better.
Yes, 100%.
And then I'll have to look and see what the travel time is from Birmingham down to like Pembroke, or could we go Holyhead?
Get the Holyhead ferry. Well, that would be
closer
from from the north. If we're up more north, then that would be closer.
Yeah.
But then that brings us into Dublin, yeah, which is a long drive home then.
Yeah, but it's 3 hours. Like, I mean, it's not a huge big difference between Dublin and Rosslar.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at some questions here.
Yeah, our weather today, by the way, is blue skies and it is 30 degrees.
It is very warm. Literally, we got in the car and you couldn't touch anything with bare skin because it would just burn you straight away. So thank God for good aircon.
Yeah, and we are. The weather's been great actually since we've been over, so it's great for driving. I know it's warm, but at least it's clear skies. The motorways, so the motorways are toll. A lot of them around France, so they're about 15, 20 quid depending on which road you're on.
Yeah.
Yesterday's was like €16 something.
Yeah.
You pick a ticket up, you get your ticket when you enter the motorway, and then you pay it at the other end. So you don't know until the other end what's going to cost, but it'll be something around the same sort of thing.
Did you say 16 quid?
Yeah.
Fuck off, that's how much the toll was.
That's what I said.
That's very expensive.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's why, but then because they're toll roads, they're actually not overly busy.
Yeah, true.
You know, because anybody who's local will use the old roads.
Yeah, and obviously this is the quickest way to get from A to B.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And you're still going through the countryside, so you don't really miss much. Like, the old roads sort of almost like they run sort of parallel,
Yeah.
you know, with the new roads, but obviously you're going through all the different towns and stuff, so they're much slower. They'll add an hour onto your journey. But the countryside, like the land from a farming point of view, is just pure flat.
Oh, it's so
So it's
lovely.
all sort of arable.
Yeah, it's so nice to look at.
So it's really, really nice. And in fairness, they look after their place well. Like, you know, there's no big ugly ditches. There's all just nice fence work and trees planted and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And
So-
even like the cities are like that. Like when we were looking around Reims, like there's none of this like chewing gum, you know, mixed
it's clean.
into the pavement
Yeah.
now and all that shit.
Yeah,
you know?
no, in fairness,
They really do take care of the place, and you can tell especially on so when you're on the trams in Reims, they have these they're like the leap card tap on tap off things, but they're on the trams instead of outside on the station or on the stop,
yeah.
which we couldn't do in Ireland, because if you put the leap card tap on things on the actual train, the amount of people that would literally just break it would just be broken, damaged, look like crap so
True.
quickly.
Yeah.
But over there, their trams are spotless. Like, there's no rubbish, there's no...
Yeah, they do look after their stuff. And even on the motorways, people don't sit in the fast lane. They actually use the fast lane to overtake, and then they move back into the slow lane. So they're actually it's quite pleasant to drive.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're just chilling, like no one's really trying to kill each other or whatever. Like the UK driving in the UK was honestly the most stressed I've ever been on a road.
Yeah, and they're like the UK is super busy. in terms of traffic. Like there's just like cars everywhere. But actually, in France, it's very different. It's, you know, because they're paved roads, they're actually quite quiet. So the drive is really nice. You can just stick it on cruise control. So it's a bit like going from Cork to Dublin. You know, a lot of times you can just put the car on cruise control and you're not having to weave in and out of traffic that much. You can just sit and relax. Yeah. So I'm just sitting at 115 kilometers an hour, so I'm not even pushing the speed limit, and just cruising along or whatever. Like, and it's really, really simple and easy to do.
All right, I have a few questions here.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do. To do with work, like to do with your industry.
Okay, far out.
So, what's one thing that marketing as a whole did that you didn't expect? So, what's one way it evolved that you were like, oh, I didn't expect that from what I'd learned previously for it to move in that direction?
Well, I suppose, you have to say the iPhone.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the phone itself, but the iPhone sort of started the process whereby everybody had their own individual gateway onto the internet to whatever they liked.
Yeah.
And obviously apps followed and all the rest of it. But even before we had apps, you know, you'd be going through Google and bookmarking all your favorite places to go to and your favorite shops and all that. And the big difference that made is personalization.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So in kind of general, what you're meaning is how much you can know about one person.
Yeah, so if you think before we had the internet on our phones through the iPhone, you know, you would have a family computer.
Yeah.
You know, I would sit in the corner on a desk, and you know, because even like back in the 90s and the early 90s, you know, laptops tended to be only work related. You know, people with laptops for work, but you'd have one sort of common computer at home or whatever, or one sort of common laptop even. So that would be sitting on a desk and everybody would be using it, and it would tend to be used more for just finding out stuff as opposed for entertainment or whatever. And you know, you didn't go to it to watch movies or YouTube or anything like that sort of stuff. It was you'd go there to print things off or look up stuff that, you know, for your travels or book something. So it was very practical. But then, like I say, you know, even though we had Blackberries and all that before that, a lot of those were constrained because you had access to email and the internet, but that was about it. Then the iPhone comes along, and now you have apps. So you can have an app for your travel, you can have an app, hotels apps, shopping apps, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So now your independent device that is tied to you with your own serial number, and you're obviously logged into everything, so it knows who you are. And that changes personalization. And from a marketing point of view, it means that, you know, we could then sort of go, I'm going to create 20 different versions of this ad in the campaign, and they're all targeted at different types of people.
Yeah, so even with the personalization that you would get, you would still probably group people together.
Yeah, so
you'd market to the groups. You still wouldn't market to the just
so
that one person.
We started developing customer personas. So you would types of customers. So, you know, that way. So you would stereotype people into, you know, the college student, the young mum, the young dad, the middle-aged dad, the parents whose children have grown up and left home, so the empty nesters. Then your sort of your seniors, you know, and then later on that, you know, you call them sort of the grey community, in terms of that is all the older people who have a large disposable income, good pensions from the old days and stuff like that, so the good money.
And you're probably
politicians would have called it the grey vote and stuff like that, or the silver surfers. There was loads of different terms.
But you were probably doing it by career as well. So you're probably going the social workers, the hospitality workers, the
absolutely.
nurses,
I mean, you would,
doctors, that kind of stuff.
Like you would try to understand, you know, what do college students do? Where do they go on the weekends? What type of music do they listen to? Where do they live? How do they travel? Do they own cars?
Yeah.
How much do they spend? Where do they like to shop? What influences them? You're doing the same for your 27, 28-year-olds, you know, people who have been out in the workforce a few years, sharing a house or sharing a flat with somebody, single, they go out a lot more disposable income, then you know, young couples and so on and so forth. So you would sort of have these, and then you could develop all these individual ads that have different music, different images, different video, you know, all selling the same product, but targeting the message differently for each group. So that's really, in the last 20 years, it's all about personalization. It's all about, you know, and the internet or Facebook or your Samsung phone or whatever, they're just tools to get you there, because they're constantly changing. You know, 5 years ago we didn't have TikTok. That's totally revolutionized, you know, selling, especially in America, where they have sort of paid promotion capability. In Ireland, we really don't have it that well. You see a few ads, but very little.
Yeah, you get maybe 1 or 2 ads every hour or something like that.
Yeah, but also you don't have influence in Ireland who are getting paid by TikTok yet.
Yeah.
So they're still doing it the way they do on
Swappy and
Instagram,
all that,
whereby, you know, somebody will pay them to do a TikTok or, you know, whatever about a particular product, but they're not earning anything from TikTok. They don't have the creators fund here. There may be you know, they've tested it in a few people, but in America it totally changed because they have the creator
fund. Which is mental.
So they get paid, and they get paid relatively small amounts still, but they do get paid, and that side of it. So
it's enough that if you don't have a good week in regards to your content, that you still have money there to buy food or whatever.
So it's, you know, it's definitely much more of a business model than the way we have it, and all that side of it. So you have all that side of it going on. Personalization, I'd say, and like I say, all the different apps, all the different social media, they're just tools. They're just gateways to different types of people.
There's no
different
way,
age groups.
There's no way you really could have expected that, considering when you started learning about marketing, which would have been in the 90s.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have really shown as being a thing yet. You wouldn't have maybe seen that progression.
No, like when we were doing demographics and behavioral graphics and stuff, when you're looking at the demographic of your audience and you're putting them into the psychological profile, behavior profile, that type of stuff, income groups or whatever, that's really what it was. So it was like, you know, people who lived in the city, people who lived in the country, people who were professionals, people who were stay-at-home moms. So, but the groups were so much bigger, and they were age groups, the 20 to 30s, the 30 to 40s. So they were much broader. Now you can really get very specific, right down to small groups of individuals. And we now have a thing which was developed by a guy called Seth Godin, called tribes. So this idea that people identify with other people like them. So all the people that like tattoos, all the people that like, BTS, all the people that are into their cars. So now you can find people on the internet through their interests and their likes and the type of people they like to spend their time with, and all of these things. So it's constantly sort of just getting much more detailed all the time.
What's the biggest challenge you're facing in your role as a lecturer right now, and how are you tackling it?
So AI has come out in the last year, really. So AI is allowing people to write essays, get essays written for them. So there was always essay writers out there, you know, that would do this, you know, and you get a standard essay on Shakespeare and the Merchant of Venice or something like that.
It was quite easy to tell by the...
Yeah, everybody would have the same essay, you know, where with AI now you can ask it a specific question around the Merchant of Venice or something like that, and you would get a much more detailed answer. But the speed of it, it'll do it in 30 seconds or a minute, whatever. And you can develop that. So now we have Chat GPT, and there's loads of other AI tools that are out there that do loads of different variations on it with video and imaging and audio and all the rest of it. So you are, the problem we have is that the plagiarism tools we use for detection aren't able to detect AI at the moment. They're just not able there to do it. But there is a style the way AI writes, because it's not quite, it doesn't feel human. It feels quite precise. The language can feel a bit like it's been written by a solicitor.
Kind of unemotional, unoffending, all that kind of stuff.
It doesn't have too many grammatical mistakes, obviously. The wording, obviously, it uses words that maybe your students maybe necessarily wouldn't. It also is quite global in the way it looks at things. So a small country like Ireland, it doesn't really allow you to pinpoint what is the market for trainers in Ireland or whatever. You know,
And also the database is up to 2021, I think, now at the latest. So.
Yeah, so you have all these things. But as a lecturer, I can identify AI really, really quickly because it just looks out of place.
Well, I would say as a student that you can identify AI that's used by a student that doesn't care very much.
Yeah.
I'm a student who has used AI before for getting assignment ideas and all that kind of stuff, and I've used it with care and put hard work into using it.
Yeah,
which
so
is harder to tell.
What I say to my students is, you know, there is nothing stopping you using AI. There's no issue with that whatsoever. It's how you use it.
Yeah.
So, like when I was in college in the early 90s, the internet really became a thing. And we went from going to the library and looking through books for theories to being able to Google it. All we had was essentially encyclopedias online. There was a system called LexisNexis back then. So you could search for stuff and you could get quotes and you could get theories and stuff like that. But then you would take that information and then you'd have to apply it to the given situation that you were in.
Yeah.
But it meant that instead of spending 2 hours in the library, I could do 20 minutes on the internet and get the same information.
Yeah.
I say to my students, use AI the same way. Go in and ask it questions and it will provide you with the answers really quickly, but that's only the beginning of your work. So it'll allow you to do research and find out principles and ideas and theories and get them provided to you in a way that you can use.
Yeah.
But what you really want to be able to do then is to actually go off and use that information and apply it and look for local examples that mean something to you and do all that side of it as well.
Yeah.
And that's really the key thing that we want to try and encourage. Well, I do with my students is, that's fine, look, I don't mind you using it, but if you just give me what it gives you, you know, you're going to get a really poor result and probably fail.
Yeah, like one thing I've noticed, especially with how I use AI, is that I probably use it for the same amount of time I would do my assignment. So if I have an assignment and I know it's going to take me 3 days to do it without AI, I'll still take 3 days to do it, but just use AI to help me get a better grade. What's going on here now?
Okay, so AI is really the big problem, I'd say, at the moment in terms of how things are developing, but it depends whether you're afraid of it or not. I mean, that's really the key thing, I'd say. Yeah. So we're at a petrol station, so we're going to take a pause.
And stop it here for now. Alright, we're back. So we stopped in, it's called Station Avia, or Avia, or whatever. And we had some
baguettes,
sandwiches or whatever, and a Coke. And then we picked up a few goodies or whatever. So we were talking about your industry, or the field that you study.
Yeah, so anyway, we were chatting about AI. So AI is... Anyway, you can say to students around AI, use it for research purposes, but what AI won't do is they won't put in referencing in there, and they won't apply it to a given situation.
Well, actually, they can put referencing in there.
Yeah, but it tends... The problem is that, it's not great, and it mightn't necessarily be the references we've been discussing in class and things like that. So, again, I asked the person, but I get around it anyway, is that when I'm asking them to do a case study, I specify that they have to base their case study on an SME, a local business that they know or they have worked for, because a lot of our students are part-time workers as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, the local dress shop, the local butcher, the local pub, the local restaurant, somebody that you know personally.
Yeah.
And then I also require them to, because a lot of times it's marketing and business related subjects, obviously, I require them then to speak to the appropriate person in the company and ask and get their answers to some of the questions I'm posing to students.
Yeah, see, I think the key difference there between what I study and what you teach is that for my stuff, we can't really look at SMEs. You can only get so local.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can do microeconomics, but you don't tend to do real kind of big data essays, which is a lot of the assignments we're getting, is getting these huge data sets and then basically trying to tell the story of the economic situation of that country.
Yeah.
So it's much easier to use AI to get around those maybe difficulties or things that would take longer if you were trying to do it normally. Whereas in marketing, you can get as specific as you want. Really.
Yeah, but then if you look at economics, a lot of the times what the professors or your lecturers are looking for is that they want you to be able to, they're looking for your point of view based on the data set.
Yeah.
So every student is going to have a slightly different way, even if they all, they figure out that inflation's going up and, prices are going up, wages are being pressurized, what's going to happen next type of thing.
Yeah.
Even though they'll all probably be able to work out what's going to happen next, they all should have a unique, just based on their own experiences and just based on their own point of view. So it shouldn't be very prescriptive.
No, and it's not. To be fair, like the AI I've done, I think students who use AI intelligently are already intelligent.
Yeah.
So a lot of the lads that I know that use AI the same way I do is you've got 3 days to do an assignment. Without AI, it'll take you 3 days. With AI, it could take you a day, but you use all the 3 days that it would have taken you originally just to get a better assignment out of it.
Yeah.
And then you actually end up better off because you also still spend the same amount of time looking at the research topic. So you still probably learn the same amount, maybe even more than you would if you didn't use the AI.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's AI. That's how you're tackling it in your industry. What is a common myth about your field of expertise?
Common myth is that it's a waste of time. So a lot of times you'll find when countries go into recessions we know are cyclical, the cycles are getting shorter. So our last big recession in Ireland was around from 2008 to 2012.
Yeah.
There was a mini recession or sort of possibility in and around COVID.
Well, it was more of a bubble than a recession.
Yeah. But a lot of companies, the first thing they do is that they look to cut costs.
Yeah.
Which needs to. So a lot of companies see marketing as a cost rather than a revenue generator.
Yeah.
So they look at their salespeople and go, we need to keep the sales department because, if we don't have people out there knocking on doors, we're not going to make any money.
Yeah.
However, the marketing budget, we've got 5 people in the marketing department, and they've got a budget spend maybe of a couple of $100,000 a year or something like this. This would be a larger company, obviously.
Yeah.
Small company, they might have a budget of $50,000 a year, and maybe 2 or 3 people in it, and they'll say, okay, let's cut that back to 1. In other words, get rid of everybody except the marketing manager and give them $20,000 to spend.
Yeah.
And or maybe not even that. Just like, okay, you don't have any budget, but you're keeping your job. So. They expect them to actually still be able to do their job. So they see it as a cost. Whereas if you look at the data over the last sort of, probably since the 20s and 30s all the way through, the companies that actually kept their marketing spend at the same levels throughout the recession actually came out of the recession a lot stronger than their competitors.
Yeah, because they ended up becoming almost like a monopoly of the market. Because everybody else cut their spending, they didn't. They were the outliers then in that era.
Yeah. So their brand awareness, they were making so many gains, and people weren't buying from them. So obviously, you have to absorb that cost into a business. But what it does is that it puts you on the front foot, so that your brand awareness is high. You do a lot of marketing stuff to help people in a recession. So, do a lot of giveaways, do a lot of experiences for people that aren't going to cost them money. So to keep them engaged with the brand, to show that the brand is caring, all of these types of things. When people have money, it'll be your brand that they will come back to.
And Coca-Cola even, I feel like I remember you telling me about an example where there was like a huge recession and Coca-Cola did the same thing, and that's really how they gained a lot of their market.
Yeah, I mean, and all the big brands are clever enough to know this. Now, I'm sure everybody has to cut something. So you mightn't have the same budget as a marketing department, and you may lose, out of 3 people, you may lose 1.
Or they'll slow production or whatever.
Yeah, but they're not cutting things back and essentially scrapping it. And I've seen lots of marketing departments essentially just sort of get rid of everybody once they hit a recession, because they went, marketing is just a cost.
Yeah.
And we need to say, they don't see it as, you know, your revenue generator, your leads coming into the business, your brand awareness. Like, these days, companies still struggle to understand or measure brand performance.
Which I think is quite surprising, considering they've had, 15 years to understand it?
Yeah, but
You know, since it's
a lot of the times, like if you look at brand awareness, it can be very hard to connect your brand awareness to particular sales
targets or
sales,
whatever,
right? You know, this ended up in that. Like if I do an ad and there's a click through on it directly for a special offer, or there's a discount code, easy to measure how many people use that discount code.
Yeah.
If I do a general brand awareness ad to let people know that such and such a brand is doing their best in their community or helping people out through the recession
or whatever it is.
Yeah, that sort of way. It's very, you can see an increase in maybe visitors to your website. You can see maybe an increase in footfall in the shop.
Yeah.
But you can't specifically know if that came from that particular campaign. It can be very difficult to measure.
Yeah.
So that, so metrics in the last 10 years have really changed for marketers, because now we're better at measuring. We have more ways to measure, but it's still very much, it's not the same as a salesperson where you pay them 50 grand a year and they bring in 200 grand in sales.
Yeah.
And you can see the direct correlation from that person.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult. So you're trying to get a marketing department, you're trying to say, give us that 50 grand and we'll bring in £500,000 in sales.
Yeah.
But it can be very hard to measure that, So a lot of times companies, when they hit recession, that's what they want to do. They want to cut back. So marketing, a lot of times people see it as a cost rather than a revenue generator. And a lot of that just comes from naivety and not understanding what the marketing department does.
Okay. Who has been your most important professional mentor? And the only reason I asked this question specifically is because, from my knowledge, yes, you kind of did start out in the lower rungs like everyone else does, but it wasn't for very long, and you very quickly went into management.
Yeah, I think, and not so much for what he did, but there was a guy who was sort of the head of sales in QMass, David O'Leary.
Yeah.
David went on to be the CEO of the company after Paul Hans retired. But I think the one thing about David is that he never really got flustered. He was always very calm. He was always a happy sort of a guy type of thing, even though he had a lot of responsibility. And he worked the problems rather than the issues.
Right.
What I mean by that is like, okay, how do we generate sales? How do we target this? How do we target that? Rather than, I've seen a lot of managers who would just go around blaming people for poor results.
Right.
Rather than being solution focused or whatever. And also he was very polite, very calm, very respectful of everybody in the organization. And that was very different to a lot of managers I'd seen in different companies before that, and after that. So therefore you get, it's sort of, it was very much a case of, you can do things the right way.
Yeah, and kind of a lead by example sort of management.
Yeah, you don't have to be the stereotypical sales marketing guy, on that side of it. I think on a bigger scale, you do have to look at the likes of Steve Jobs, and everybody talks about Steve Jobs, but like Steve Jobs was not a very good engineer. He wasn't a particularly good coder.
He was a product guy.
Yeah, but what he tried to understand was people's behavior.
Yeah.
Rather than, like, a lot of people who are product focused start to think, well, if we get this chip to go faster, we can make our phone be 4 times faster.
Well, no, I would say, from my point of view, that's more of an engineer or a computer science point of view. Product guys are like sales and marketing guys, where they're thinking, how does this fit in your hand? What does it look like when you're walking around with it? What's on the back of it? How do people see it? How does it get recognized? They are sort of sales and marketing guys, but it's about the product and how it feels to use and interact.
So he was very more, he was a lot like that. He was much more visionary, and he sort of looked at how technology might be used or how people would want to interact with technology. So it's a lot of times about asking the right questions rather than looking at what technology can do. Like, we seen an ad last night on the telly when we were watching a movie for Intel.
Yeah.
And all it talked about was this particular piece of software that Intel has got a million power. It's got the power of 1 million laptops, and it connects to the cloud, and it does this. And and you're looking at that going, well, that doesn't tell me anything about what it does.
Yeah.
That's some product guy going, I'm so proud of this. We're going to tell everybody about how powerful our software is, or our machine is, rather than focus on, well, what problems does that solve? How would people use that? How will that going to change their lives? He was definitely, and as a marketing guy, that would be the more sort of what I'm always interested in. So I'm constantly, even with my students, I'm constantly looking at the way they interact with their phones between classes, how they use their phones to interact with each other. A lot of people talk about, phones are the nightmares, for teenagers. They make them very insular, very introvert. And actually, if you watch young people, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
They use their phones to obtain content. And yes, if you're on your own, you're going to be watching TikTok with your headphones in.
Yeah.
But like if you're in a group environment, you're seeing something and then you're sharing it with somebody else, and then they're looking at it on their device, you're looking at it on your device, and you're going, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
It's creating conversation.
It's what I would say is, and I don't know how. This might be very controversial, I would say, but I would say phones and social media, when used correctly in social circumstances, can almost be the lubricant to conversation, to communication.
Young people communicate with each other much more than I did when I was like 15 to 20, because all we have is a landline in the house.
Yeah.
And you had to sort of almost book your time.
Yeah.
Where you guys, either through your phone or through your Xbox or PlayStation or on Snapchat and all the rest of it, are constantly chatting to each other.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times it's just BS, but you are in communication and you're having laughs and you're sharing things and all that.
Yeah.
One of the things that separates TikTok from every other social media is the amount of stuff that people share with each other on the app.
It's like, do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of old Facebook. Facebook, when it first started, was literally just constant sharing of your feed to other people. You were constantly sharing it to other people, tagging people and stuff. Like, that was a big thing when Facebook first came out. And TikTok very much resembles that way of, it's so easy to share, and they make you want to share.
Yeah. So, and just the way that it's designed. So, I think, it's a big thing that I see with my students, and I'll be asking my students then what apps they use. You get a lot of things where, there's a lot of stereotypical gender sort of behavior in terms of the majority of the girls between classes will be looking at shopping apps or shopping websites, right? And they'll have their mobile phones. No, not even so much Instagram, because they'll have a few minutes between classes, and what they're doing is they're browsing Shein, or they're browsing ASOS, or they're browsing Pretty Little Thing or whatever, just seeing what's happening and what's trending and all that.
Yeah.
Where a lot of the guys are on gambling apps.
Really?
Yeah, huge amount of young men in university are gamblers, so they're constantly looking at, especially during the football season, they'll be talking to each other about the odds for different games in terms of who's favourite, who's not, who's going to get the first goal.
I did not expect that at all.
So they're very, and it's very gender specific, even though we're in a world that is very gender neutral.
Yeah.
A lot of the habits still tend to fall around, and obviously that's not everybody. But in general, you get these views of how people use it. So it's about understanding behavior and understanding how people use apps. So, so a lot of the gambling companies obviously are making the ability to spend money much easier in the app.
Yes, and there's lots of different gambling apps now.
Yeah.
Like, if you remember a few years ago, it was kind of just Bet365, and that was really all you were using, especially for Irish guys anyway.
Yeah, and if you look at the marketing campaigns from somebody like Paddy Power, their marketing campaigns are built around taking the mick out of everybody and anybody.
Yeah.
Because their target market is 18 to 25-year-old young men who are single guys, disposable income, and so it's a very masculine advertising approach, and that sort of way. They target them specific ways. So I think, definitely David O'Leary, just because I thought the way he went about his business, I thought was just very good and very professional and very polite and very calm. But in terms of vision, you know, I have great respect for Steve Jobs. Now, he wasn't a particularly nice person, but in terms of his ability to look at how we would use technology rather than just how good technology is.
And I suppose, was there anything that these, maybe not the two guys you mentioned, but was there anything that people above you or people you looked up to within your field taught you that you think was an invaluable lesson towards what your job was?
I'd have to say no, and only because most of my career was always, apart from Boeing Construction, most of my career was in companies with less than 100 employees. So I tended to come into startups. I tended to be the first sort of dedicated marketing manager in the company where they had people doing bits and pieces, but they hadn't really set up an apartment. And so a lot of times when I was getting into companies, you know, their websites were awful. They didn't have any brochure collateral. They weren't doing any social media or online advertising. You know, they weren't creating content. You know, and blogs or anything like this. Like blogs and white papers were a big thing back in the day. In the last 10 years, obviously, it's, you know, video content. And a lot of these companies, they weren't doing it. They didn't know how to do it. They didn't know how to use their social media. They didn't know how to connect with their audience online. So a lot of times I was getting in there and educating people about what we need to do and why.
Because, like, even if you look at the TikTok accounts now, or the Instagram accounts, or the Snapchat accounts of big companies, big brands, the one thing that seems to run through, which I still find quite funny that this is still happening now, is that they're all run by interns. They always get the intern to do it because they have no fucking idea how else to do it, and they don't want to pay for a marketing manager to come in and do it.
And also they want, you know, they want that younger, relaxed vibe. Like, one of the things, I remember getting into companies and getting into the board meetings and sitting with people who were 15, 20 years older than me, and me trying to get them to say, guys, we have to be much more relaxed on our web and on social media and our Twitter accounts and all the rest of it.
Be so professional,
and just be and they would be having heart attacks. They'd be going, you can't put that sort of stuff out. You can't say those sort of things. And you go, you have to remember, our audience, although they're senior managers or they're running companies or whatever, they're still people. They're just normal people and have the same sense of humor and all the rest of it. So as long as you avoid profanity and as long as you don't go near religion and you don't go near anything that would, you know, porn and all that, leave all that side of it. But there's so much else where you can just have a laugh and a bit of fun
dad
with.
jokes or puns and all that kind of stuff, with your brand name and the logo.
And just and try and get, you know, what we used to always try and do is personalize your brand. Try and get your brand to feel like a person. So that somebody goes, oh, you know, you think of Paddy Power, you think, oh, that's the sort of messer. You think of Ryanair, they constantly take the mick. They're like the guy who's got all the money and they just laugh at everybody else. You know, you want to try and position your brand. Well, who do you want? You know, if it's software, you want to be seen as the next coolest big thing, the sort of the tacky nerd with who's brilliant but a bit relaxed and funny about it. You know, so you're trying to create whatever it is you want to do. You want to try and create that. Like on TikTok, do you remember this listener on TikTok? And he'd go, what was his little tagline?
His tagline was,
that's it and that's where it goes, or something.
That's a fact and that's the law, or something.
That's a fact and that's the law. So, and you know, God rest his soul, he passed away earlier this year, but he came on to TikTok, and the reason why it worked for him was because he was giving out legal advice to an audience that was young.
Irish young people,
but he looked like your granddad. And he sounded like your granddad. So he was trustworthy. And if you're in the legal profession, that's what you want people to do. You want people to trust you. So if that had been some young person who was in there, they would go like, I don't know if I believe what they're telling me. Because how are they going to know that?
You definitely would not have put the same respect on what they were saying.
So the brand image was basically, this is who they are. He's the professor, he's the head of the company, he's like your granddad, you trust him, he knows what he's talking about. And then he has his own little tagline that just sort of everybody thought was not so much cool, but they thought it was cute. Oh, look at Granddad, he's got a tagline. You know, and that. So that's what you're constantly trying to do, is personify your brand and make it a little bit more human-like. And a lot of companies are still afraid of it.
That and also, but I think brands are also now taking the easy way out, which is instead of getting your brand to seem like a person, you just get a person to seem like your brand.
Well, I suppose that's where influencers come in.
Well, that's what I mean. That's the easy way out, though.
Yeah, and it's important. The one thing with influencers are mercenary. In other words, they'll work for anybody that gives them something,
money.
gives them something free, gives them some money. So it can be very hard to sort of grab an influencer and make them yours without you giving them a lot of money, and that can be very expensive.
Yeah.
So it can be very difficult to do that. You know, you want to work for, you know, any of the really famous celebrities or whatever, it's going to cost you a shitload of money. And they will do 1 or 2 videos for you, maybe once a month or whatever, for a few months, and then they're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And in the short term, it might work if you have a short-term goal like sales coming up or the new season of clothes, and you just want to get that exposure.
Yeah.
But then, you know, give Kim Kardashian $1 million and she'll do something for you.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of money. So I think that you have to be mindful that the influencers are only going to be there as long as you are, you know, minding them and giving them money.
Yeah.
So what it can be really useful is to try and find people within your company and make them the face of your brand. So this is where, like you say, some of the brands, you know, allow their interns to run their TikTok or whatever, so it becomes more personalised and they do their little, you know, video to camera talking about this or talking about
then
that.
You get
whatever.
the whole Ryanair situation where the intern just basically became the face of Ryanair for a whole summer and was famous and everybody loved it, and then when she left, it became a case of like, oh, well,
we're going
Ryanair
to have to get somebody else to do this.
I think they ended up hiring her back in, but not as an intern, but as a social media manager or something like
Quite
that.
possibly. I can't remember what happened, because I know she was leaving to go back to college or something like that, so maybe she's still doing a bit of part-time for them.
Yeah.
Or maybe they hired in somebody else essentially to copy what she was doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, but like I say, it's all just tools. I mean, trying to personalize your brand and trying to connect with your audience, everybody's been trying to do that for 50 years, 60 years, 100 years, anybody doing any type of selling.
Yeah.
The tools change, but a lot of times brands just get fearful. And they think that people won't respect them if they are human-like.
Yeah, and it's that whole thing of, I don't know why, but when you were talking about that, I kind of imagine it's like you're walking down the road and there's, you know, dog poo or whatever like that. Brands are always so scared of stepping in the dog poo that they keep forgetting that there's so much space around it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But, like, you know, the Cool brand will step in the dog poo, slip, fall on their back, but make sure they videoed it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then that will go up, and everybody will laugh at them. Like,
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
You know, it's absolutely the sort of it's just about trying. But again, it's understanding your audience, understanding the platform you're on, what people expect of that platform. People don't go on to TikTok to listen about the detail of how powerful your software is.
Yeah.
You know, they're not interested in your software. In 5 years' time, when they're working for a company, then they might be in a position where you're, you know, and then they go, oh yeah, I remember those guys, they were cool.
But then they go to your website.
Yeah.
Like, if anyone actually wants to know anything about what the specifics of what you sell, how good it is, and all this kind of stuff, they go to your website. Don't put that on your social media. Don't put that on your TikTok. Put on your TikTok and your social media why the brand is good, what the brand believes in. Like, put their values, their ethics, their beliefs on those kind of social media website. Everything else can be left for the website.
Oh yeah, and it is just about doing that, you know what I mean? And just having a bit of fun with it.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's going to forget about it by tomorrow anyway.
100%. If it's 5-second video, they've already forgot about it once they swipe up.
Yeah.
That's it.
You know, so yeah, so TikTok's great for brand awareness. You know, Instagram's great if you want to sell stuff, because that's what it's designed to do.
Yeah.
Facebook is great for communities, because it's very much a community-based platform where people tend to be friends with their school groups, their sports groups, all of that stuff through Facebook, and because, you know, all those groups aren't having websites, they're having Facebook pages, so that's how you connect with them. So if you're a small business or a local business, the local bistro, the local restaurant, the local flower shop, Facebook is a great place for you to be, because the audience is local that's finding you.
Yeah.
You go on to Instagram as a flower shop from Middleton, you're competing with every flower shop in the world.
Yeah.
Where in Facebook it's different, it's very much community based.
And I would even say, as someone who is from the younger generation, if I want to find out anything about a place I'm going to, a local place, usually within Cork, if we're going to karting, or we're going to the cinema, or I'm going to a barber's that I don't know or whatever, but it's all within my area, I still go to Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't go to Instagram, because Instagram is the hardest way to find out when the opening hours are, when they're, who works there, how do I book it. Facebook is the easiest place for that, and the phone number is on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say that a lot of brands nowadays give up on Facebook, but if you're a local SME or stuff like that, you should definitely be using Facebook.
Yeah, and again, your Google business pages are fantastic.
Update them. Definitely update them.
And make sure they're connected to Google Map, because that's what people will use when they want to actually find people and get connected to people.
Yeah.
I want to know where the restaurant is in Cork, and I want to know where the different places are. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. All right, well, I think we're going to leave it there for today. We're about 50 minutes away from Metz, and we'll probably catch up with this tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for listening. As you can tell, most of these episodes won't have proper outros, but we appreciate you spending a little time with us and listening to our chat, and we'll see you in the next episode.